Hello YouTube, welcome. This is part 2 on the Witch King, a more in-depth look, sire. Sorry. Yeah, so my first video with Witch King was all like lifesteal and junk and shit like that. This one's going to be a little bit different, a little bit mixture of health and Shadow's Reach to increase my A. But I will have a third and final Witch King video. I like to run him with all health, and I want to show you guys that because that will be a lot better loadout for competitive matches. But I like this loadout that I have, and like this video, what it kind of does with his abilities and everything. This loadout that I'm running is going to be a little more damage based, but give me some little more health to make me a little sort of like an off tank. But this will be a more in-depth look on Witch King, and I hope you guys like it. This is going to be like my first more in-depth video, talking about really the Guardians at a more just a deeper level than just talking about their abilities, and more talking about like their roles and things like that. So with the loadout that I'm going to run with Witch King is going to be Grey Company first, and then Shadow's Reach second. And what that's going to do is going to give me, Grey Company is going to give me a nice balance of ability, power, and health, which I find very nice and works really well with Witch King. And then Shadow's Reach to basically double the amount of damage that my burn ability, my A, does. I find it very useful. Like I said, again, this is more of like a damage belt for Witch King that gives them a little more survivability with the added ability, power, and health. So the reason why I'm going with some ability and health is because Witch King's abilities benefit from health as well. So I'm not going to talk about the abilities again because I've already done that, but I'm going to kind of explain how some of the abilities work a little more. So Malice, that's going to give you some burn damage, and it's what you want to have active around most of the time. And now this ability is very effective for clearing creeps, and so you want to have that out when enemy soldiers are around, and then you also want to have it out when you're up close in the team fights, because it'll do continued DPS for you to whittle the enemy's health down. So you can see I'm using Malice. It's active right now. It's the little blue numbers popping off the soldiers. It's good for clearing waves because it'll affect more than one enemy, which is always nice to have abilities that affect more than one enemy. And with Malice and Witch King's other abilities, when enemies are within close range, every second worth 1% of the Witch King's health while Malice is active. So the original damage you do after it increases your first basic attack after the ability is active, and then the burn is going to be 1% of the Witch King's health. So you can see here having a little more ability power and having more health is going to somewhat boost the damage for Malice. Really it's more affected by how much health you have, and I like running just pure health Witch King. It's very effective, probably the most competitive loadout you can have, and one of the most common for defenders, which Witch King is a defender. But it's going to really be based off your max health. So I ran the Grey Company for extra health. It's going to give me about 318 health extra with the gems added to it. I think a little bit more than that actually. And then I've got Shadow's Reach, and what that's going to do is give me dish out 3 additional damage per level to all enemies within 4 meters of you every second. So this is going to work hand in hand while Malice is active, and that's why I have this ability on my belt. That relic, Shadow's Reach, doesn't contribute really anything to my stats except for a movement speed gem and 2 ability power gems. Okay, but it's going to dish out about 40, I'll just round up to 40 damage per second, and then with my Malice it's going to about double that DPS. So it's going to be very effective versus the weaker resistant guardians, especially archers. It's going to burn right through them. And the nice thing about it too is it's nice to continuously do damage when I'm using other abilities. So right, when I usually have my Malice active, and I like to always have it out as much as possible because it does the constant burn damage when I'm fighting an enemy. Okay, but I don't feel as pressured to have that extra damage out, because if I switch to other abilities, I'm still going to do my burn damage with the Shadow's Reach. So that's Malice. Now, how you want to also use Malice, you want to do it when you're close up and you want to burn enemies' health down. It takes does a big chunk of damage with your first basic attack after hitting the ability off. But the way that I like to really use it is when you're in a one-on-one situation, and I just say one-on-one because you're going to want to use your ultimate, which can only target a single enemy. But if you ever find yourself in a one-on-one situation, hit your ultimate right away. It's going to do initial damage and then burn damage for a couple seconds. And then switch over to your A ability and then do your basic attack, and then continue to just whittle their health down with your burn. You're going to have 2 burns active, your ultimate and your Malice. And then you're going to also have your Shadow's Reach going off. So you're going to have a ton of DPS just by the burn damage alone if you hit your ultimate, and then right away you hit your A ability and you just stay on them and don't let them get away. And if their health gets really low and you're really confident in the situation, I would even pull them in close to get some more reflection damage. They might end up killing themselves, and then slowing them down, and then hitting Malice again to do some more burn damage. But usually you want to use, obviously, your ultimate ability. Death has a nice perk of reducing the amount of health an enemy guardian gets from being healed, but it's not going to really do a whole lot. I usually just use the ability itself just for the extra damage per second that it does. It's a really good finishing move if an enemy is about to get away, because it has range on it. But if you think that you're playing against somebody really aggressive, or even just think you can kill them really fast, use your ultimate and use your A to really do a ton of burn damage, because you have all the burns going at once, plus your Shadow's Reach when you're level 14, which will really do a ton of damage. Now, the typical way you're going to run Witch King, it depends what role. I'm kind of more damage right now for my team than a tank. I could have been more health because we don't have a defender, but that's okay, don't need it. And this turns out in this match. But while I'm running damage, I'm leveling up my damage abilities first, my A ability, and my ultimate. But the good thing about Witch King is he has a really good CC. He's got a really good pull and a really good slow, and they're very useful in team fights. And so typically, when you're playing Witch King, what you want to do always first is you want to pull the enemy into you with your darkness. It forces the enemy to target you, and it also does some reflection damage, which is a little added bonus, but nothing overwhelming. I think they never really implemented the reflection damage too well. They have some relics for it. It would have been interesting if they had more gems for it and stuff like that. It would be kind of a cool, another layer they could have really added onto this game, but you know, I don't think they really thought the reflection through all the way. But so you're going to want to use your darkness to pull an enemy in, despair to slow the enemy down, and then it's your choice of hitting your ultimate off if you would like, but then you normally go to your Malice, which I'll do your burn damage and just start doing the DPS. Ultimate, I'd say, is always optional just because it's a single target, and it's really useful when enemies are starting to get away in a team situation. So just make the call yourself when you get a little more experience with Witch King, and you can kind of know what to expect out of your enemy team, matched with your playstyle. Now, The other abilities and how they also work with Witch King's health and why it's a really good idea to just run as much health as you can is because the Despair, which gives you the reflection, that works by augmenting the reflection by 1% of the Witch King's maximum health. So if you had 5,000 health, you would be doing 50% reflection added on to 25, which would be crazy. Obviously, you're never going to get to 5,000 health, but just to show you how that would translate, that's how it would work. So Witch King, the typical Witch King, if you're running health and you're playing a defender, you want around 2,000 health, so that's going to add about 20% reflection. I think 2,000 health is always a good number to shoot for when you're a defender, and your role is to tank and take damage, because you can't just have pure resistance, because you do need a layer of health to absorb attacks from multiple enemies, just not one. And then you have the death ability, which doesn't benefit from Witch King's max health, benefits more from ability power. But then you have his Despair, which is his slowing ability, and very useful for chasing down enemies with your team, because it will slow the movement speed by 50% for 5 seconds, and turning the area around him by slowing them from 1.5% of the Witch King's maximum health. So again, running maximum health definitely has its perks when you're considering the CC abilities on Witch King. The controlling effects that pull and slow enemies down has a big impact on his health. So while I told you the combinations to typically use when running Witch King, using his Darkness to pull enemies in, using the Despair to slow the enemies down, and then switching over to your Malice to do additional damage to enemies, that's what you typically want to do. The ones you want to level up first, really, just depends on your role as Witch King. I'm gonna say. Sure, leveling up your Malice is probably the most popular because it does more damage. But if you really level up your Darkness first, you're gonna do a lot more for your team in the early game, especially in the team fights. You'll really throw your huge amount of CC into the mix that typically people aren't used to when playing against Witch King, and really allowing your teammates to do a lot of the action. So if you're running all health, and that's really your role, is to be the tank on your team, and you have Guardians that you can really trust to do a lot of damage, a lot of melee strikers, maybe some range strikers, level up your CC first, your pull and your slow. You're really going to get the most out of it in the team fights for you and your team. You're really not going to do a whole lot with your leveling up your A ability first, and that's just because it's based off of his percent health mostly. But yeah, it does about double, or adds 30 to the damage every level. But really go for the controlling effects. It'll do the most for you, and that's again when you're running all health loadout. If you're running a damage loadout and kind of like a hybrid loadout with ability power and health, and you see how the shadows reach, go ahead, level up your A ability first. In this case, I'm going more for damage as my role on the Witch King. You're still going to do a lot of damage with your Malice, especially if you're just running pure health, because I've gotten times up to past 3,000 health with Witch King, and I'll share that loadout. But it'll about double the amount that you do, because 3,000 health adds 1% of that is going to be 30 damage. So if you want to go with what I think is probably the best belt for Witch King, and that's for being going for all health, well, I should say one of the best, because it really just depends on your playstyle. But I really recommend going with Bjorn's Strength as your first relic, and doing a regular just health gem, and then all after that for the rest of your relics is going to be health percent gems. But Bjorn's Strength is going to give you the 3 max health for each enemy soldier or creature killed, and plus 15 for enemy guardian kills. And you're going to stack this up really quick. especially if you're laning by yourself, which you probably won't be being a defender, but if it happens, yeah, you're gonna really do good if you can communicate with your teammates and let them know that you really need to get the soldier kills to stack up your health, because it's the most beneficial for you and your team, and everyone shares the experience anyways, so it doesn't matter who kills the creatures, except if they have like a passive like Snaga where it heals them. It might be an issue. But you're going to run Bjorn's Strength first, and then I do either or. It just depends on you what you want in which order, but I run two slot green relics, and I do End Bark, which gives me plus 100 max health, and then I'm going to put 2% health gems, and then finally I'm going to put Caradhras, which is going to give me, for every green gem in my belt, gives me 3% max health. And what I've noticed and is very interesting about running the percent health gems is that the Bjorn's Strength is going to start stacking on top of your actual health, and then the percent gems are going to take a percent of that total health. So the higher up you get, you'll find that you actually start stacking up more than just 3 health for each creep kill. You'll get up to about 4, and then the highest I've seen for each creep kill is about 5 health, which is crazy. So it gets easier and easier to boost your health by the end of the match, but also the time starts running out unless you're running a custom match or an Elite's Battlegrounds. So it's a little more difficult belt to run in a regular Battlegrounds match, because sometimes the matches don't always go out that long, but really your best bet when running a tank class of the Witch King is to run just pure health. And like I said, when you're running pure health, level up your controlling abilities first, and then your burn abilities last. And then if you're running a damage Witch King, run your damage first, obviously, and then your controlling effects kind of secondary. But I always level up my pull ability very early on, because I want that extra seconds onto the pull to help my team in the team situations, because I still am going to be an off tank or some role of taking damage. And you can see here, got to be careful, get caught, almost killed by Agendour's ultimate. You can see I had enough health. It was really good that I was on full health right there, but got to be careful with Agendour. So now I gotta go find more health, because that Jagoff just took all my health out after I was fully healed, which I do not appreciate. And looks like we're at the end of the match here. All the towers down. Last tower. See how many people we can kill coming out of their towers as we can. It's always a fun game to play at the end of matches. But I hope you guys saw how much damage the Shadow's Reach did. It's nothing new or special that you probably already haven't thought of or heard of. But I think running the Great Company with the extra health is a really good way to go to mix in with that, especially because you're close range for everything you do. And Witch King wants to keep Guardians close to him. So that's my recommendation for running a hybrid belt. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Gonna have a part 3. Showing you the all-health belt that I'm talking about in a competitive match. So, thanks for watching. Peace!